Much ado about mildew. Hi, I'm Ian Roofe and welcome to Get Gardening, and in this video we're in the greenhouses at East Ruston Old Vicarage and we're looking at the effects of mildew on this cucumber, and it's a cucumber called crystal apple, as you can see. Quite an interesting little thing, not one that I've ever grown at home, but looks beautiful in the greenhouse anyway. And mildew can cause a great deal of problems with glasshouse plants. Now here we are late in the season, so at this time of the year it's not going to be a major issue for the crop because the crop has developed, but it can develop on the plant much earlier in the year actually, and if that happens while fruit is trying to develop, it can actually weaken the plant and the whole cucumber plant can die quite easily. Now mildew itself is a fungal attack, as you can see. Its spores here and its growth is peppering the leaf, and it's pretty much in the air. It's around in the garden all the time, but it's a fungus which attacks plants when they have the right conditions around them in the air, or they're not growing the right way. So let's look at the right conditions around them. So the right conditions for mildew are that you don't ventilate your greenhouse enough, you don't open the vents enough, the doors up, you don't allow that chimney effect which has good air circulation through, it's bringing good clean air in through the door and it's getting drawn out through the windows. And good air movement is really important to stop the air becoming stale and stagnant. So if you don't ventilate enough, then the air becomes stale, and that's ideal conditions for the mildew to take hold. The other thing is if the greenhouse is too damp, you've got too much humidity in, so too much moisture around, that will also help this get established. The other thing is that if the actual roots of the plant are too dry, if the roots of the plant are too dry, then the plant can become slightly more stressed. Now, with cucumbers, we don't want to keep the roots saturated because they will rot off, but a constant supply of moisture is really needed for the plant to develop and for the cells in the plant not to dry out. So if the roots become dry and the plants become stressed, that is also when the mildew can become a real problem. So with good ventilation and keeping our plants moist at the roots and not allowing the environment in the greenhouse to get too damp, we can make sure that it doesn't actually affect cucumbers early in the year. Now for this one, what we'll do is we'll let this crop finish, it won't take long, and we'll clear the plant away, we'll take all the material out, and we will probably burn this, so we want to get rid of that infected material. So good hygiene is another thing, and the greenhouse will get scrubbed out through the winter with a proprietary greenhouse disinfectant. We'll get in all the nooks and crannies, in all the panes of glass, under the staging, around all the timber work, and the hope that we will get rid of all those spores and we'll kill it off, because it will lurk in the greenhouse over the winter and it will prevent reinfection the following year. I haven't mentioned anything about using actually any chemicals on the plant, any fungicides, and that's because I don't really like using any chemicals on plants which I'm going to eat. So that's why I talked about other things you can do to change the environment and the growing conditions of the plants. But you will get mildew on other things. You won't just get it on plants in the greenhouse. If you get mildew on plants in the garden, you quite happily use whatever you want on them. You can use a proprietary fungicide, which will work its way through the plant and will also put a coating on the leaf, and that will stop the mildew taking hold of that plant. But for me, if it's a food crop, I tend to stay clear of anything like that. So there are things you can do to sort out your mildew. Much ado about mildew. No, that doesn't.
I like that.
Much ado about mildew. No, that's wrong. You can use a proprietary oh, damn it. Here. It's a very little, small, I don't know what it is actually. Is it a squash or a gourd? That's a cucumber.
Woohoo, is it?
What about that?